That's one of the good things about Toy. They totally included the students, like, in all areas of the production. Like, if you weren't on stage, you were backstage, helping with makeup, all kinds of stuff. That's where we learned everything. It's awesome. I grew up in Buffalo, New York, and was lucky enough to grow up at a time when Buffalo was all about education, and the arts were hardcore. Like, we were hardcore in Buffalo back then, and I got the brunt of it. Like, I got as much experience in the arts as I could possibly get. The arts were so much a part of our lives and so much a part of our existence in school and outside of school. We had every opportunity to open our minds to all these different ideas. I mean, if you go see a play at Shays or at Studio Arena or at Toy, you learned about the world in a way that you wouldn't learn about it sitting in a classroom. It was a major part of my entire experience. I lived on the east side of Buffalo. It wasn't paradise. But, because of my interest in the arts, it really saved me. It was the luckiest thing in the world. At the time, I thought it was normal. I thought every kid in America got the chance to go see plays and to be involved in plays. Like, I didn't know that, we were special. Being a part of the arts, particularly in Buffalo at that time, changed their lives completely, and certainly changed my life. I mean, I decided to make a life of the arts. The idea that I was even involved in some of those productions at Toy were amazing. I mean, the people that I was exposed to, they couldn't possibly know the influence they had on me as a kid. I mean, there were so many professionals there that sort of took kids in and exposed us to theater in a way that, like, you just can't even pay for. Literally saved my life, literally saved my life. I don't know what I would have been. It was awesome, like the best time ever. The fact that that's just not a given anymore, the fact that, like, it's really, really, really difficult to even do something like that, particularly in Buffalo. The fact that, the arts aren't supported unilaterally, in government, in education. And it's incredible to me that someone like Meg and her husband are still doing it regardless. I mean, I know for a fact they don't make a lot of money doing it. And the fact that people will put their lives, their livelihoods, their heart and soul out there like that for kids, it's the noblest thing you can do.
I am on my way to you. The road may be long, but I've brought along my best running shoes, and they're not red and purple from misuse. Oh, and I wonder about this earth. Oh, and I wonder about this earth. Oh, and I wonder about this earth, and how I'll chase you. And I had no idea it was so hard to be so incomplete.
And if something's important to you, it's important to me. Joy, peace, laughter helps you happily live ever after. Pink is joy, pink is love, and most of all, I love you.
world that she described, which made perfect sense, is one where these kids aren't from. It's a more absurdist world. It's a world where a girl can become pink by eating cupcakes. Okay. The world should be very puffy. So we need to make it into more of a fantastic world. And you know what's funny? You know how I was saying that the dream cupcake thing? I was like, oh, Meg's gonna have questions about that.
Oh no.
She didn't.
That's
I think every one of her shows is a baby, and for her to hand off the entire baby, it's different just choreographing a show because then it's very collaborative. But when she says, okay, you can have this entire show, that's a lot of responsibility.
He enjoys pink, and I didn't, when she was singing about it at the beginning, I didn't see him feeling the same thing.
And it's nerve-wracking working with a master like that because you want to get it right. You want to be able to portray the story and tell the story in a way that the masters that work there do it.
Don't rush it, don't rush it, don't rush that moment, right there. Take your time with that.
It's hard to believe it's 40 years, for one thing. In coming at this season, it felt like it required some deliberate thinking on our part about how to replenish the ranks, because children will grow up with us, and we always have to be thinking about newborns, you know, when they hit toddlerhood and that, how can we start moving them along so that they join us. So Pinkalicious was a show that I had heard about other companies were doing, and putting it in the hands of Michael Walleen, who's a musical theater director. He does things with the thoughtfulness that we try to bring to all of our shows.
Go back to the story, okay? And what I asked Meg to do is actually read us the story. I think it's important, and I think we're losing that magic that we had. We worked so hard this weekend, so I think we just lost it a little bit tonight. I think we just need to go back to the storytelling.
There's so many actors in town that have never worked with Meg, and I keep telling them, like, you have to work a toy. Whatever you do, you have to work a toy. You have to work with Meg and Ken and Chet and Barb and Robert. It's such a professional company, and it's gonna be the most creative thing you'll ever do in your life. And then people are like, oh, okay. No, it's toy. They have pretty shows. They do shows for kids.
It gets off the track when it becomes just big for the sake of being big. No, it's big and clear so that they can follow your story. But the sincerity of the story is how they learn.
So you get to see the change in these people. It's like, I think I need to listen to her. It's like, well, yeah, you need to listen to me too. You need to get there. You need to work there. It'll change your life.
Very powerful things happen in the theater because children love stories. They love make-believe. They are ready, willing, and able to receive whatever you set up for them, whatever you want to tell them. They really crave that kind of exploration and experience. So if you've got them already and you've got them here, what you do up here damn well better be the best you have to give, so that those moments that you share with that young audience can be really important, really accomplish something meaningful and productive in their lives.
We need to have a great season. This is a critical time in our history. Running a professional, nonprofit children's theater in the third poorest city in the United States has many challenges. But Theater of Youth Company has been here in Buffalo for 40 years, in spite of everything that the city's been through. Tens of thousands of children have been impacted by these artists, our artists.
The artistic staff, to me, without them, we don't have a product, we don't have toy. I try my hardest to make sure that the artistic staff has the necessary resources to create the work.
This is the core staff of Toy. This is our production team. These are our artists.
I'm all in. I drank the Kool-Aid. I believe in the work that this company has done. I look at its history and see all of the tremendous accomplishments. Mission that we fulfill and serve, that is around for the future generations of children in Buffalo.
We need momentum, and Pinkalicious has the potential to be that show.
Hopefully, with the experience that we're building around the play, they will tell their friends who have, young children, and they'll come and they'll see and they'll subscribe and participate. We haven't done as much around a show as we are doing with this opening night. So there's a lot riding on it, in my opinion, and I think that we've taken all the steps necessary, so now it's a matter of execution.
Erie County is facing money woes, according to County Executive Chris Collins.
But I've had to dig deep to fill that $30 million gap.
Cultural institutions taking some of the heat. In the past,
we've funded throughout the years up to 44 cultural organizations.
But in Collins' proposed budget, just 10 organizations will get county checks. 10 organizations, he says, are the biggest tourist attractions.
What my administration has identified as the 10 significant regional attractions that bring people in from outside of Erie County.
Those not making the cut, for one, Shakespeare in Delaware Park.
Whether or not we can go on, I think that's a question. This is devastating. It really is.
It's my belief they should stand on their own.
I was furious. With the stroke of a pen, funding for organizations that I care about, funding for our community was cut. How are we going to move forward without this money?
We have a diversified revenue base, but when you take out a piece without, when you zero fund it, that's a huge hit. We're not nimble enough, we're not flexible enough to shift so quickly. So, especially without notice.
Because nobody was expecting that all of our money would be taken away. Not one person. Organizations that had been planning on something, and all of a sudden, nothing's coming, it's a crisis.
The arts are our life. The city of Buffalo, Erie County, is one of the strongest arts communities in the entire country. We have here the largest theater community outside of Manhattan. Why not brand us Broadway West? Why not brand us the city of the arts?
Art in Buffalo is an overlooked aspect of our community, often with our politicians using it when it's convenient for them to tout the specialities of Buffalo. But when it comes to funding it, to putting their money where their mouth is, it doesn't seem to pan out.
Cuts were made to over 33 organizations, totaling less than $700,000. There's 10 arts organizations that got almost $4 million. If they were to take less than a 5% cut, everyone could live.
I don't understand why this vibrant and vital tax-paying, working, spending community doesn't receive the kind of respect from the local government authorities that it should.
It comes down to the whole essence of why we pay taxes, why there is society, why there is government. It's because, back to John Donne, no man is an island. No matter what suburban gated community you live in, you are still connected to every other human being alive. And the arts remind us of that, to what it means to be human. That sounds very lofty, but he had to confront that in a very immediate way when he told the community that things like Theater of Youth Company, Shakespeare in Delaware Park, that these were not important, that we pay our taxes so that we can afford things together that none of us could afford alone. And that includes law enforcement, fire department. Sometimes it includes things like food for people in need, shelter for people in trouble. But it's also the uplifting things. It's also the arts.
When you talk about ancient cultures, you don't talk about the day-to-day, boring, mundane life. You talk about the arts that they created. If you kill the culturals in Buffalo now, 10 years from now, no one will be talking about Buffalo.
For so long I felt like, well, that's what it is. That's the game you have to play. And again, I'm getting old and cranky. So I'm saying things like, no, you're wrong. And I'm not going to shut up. You know, what makes you think that that's the way to do things? You know, why is the power just in the hands of a few people who are so close-minded? I just want to shake them and go, get out of the way, because you're really stopping things from happening. No more. Well, there's a lot of truth to the saying the show must go on, because there's no excuse. The show's got to open. You have a schedule set, and it has to open. So if it takes 24 hours a day, you know, to get everything done and get it ready, that's what you do. And you can't postpone it.
One at a time.
That's an empty seat. That's an empty seat. Curtain up is sold out.
People have designed their windows with pink clothing.
I don't know if you want to put them in one place. You can see it.
How you doing? I'm doing fine. Look at you.
You were at Buff Sim.
I was at Buff Sim.
And I was at Damon. Was it Damon then?
No,
or Rosary
it was Rosary Hill.
It was Rosary Hill, right.
It was Rosary Hill.
Actually, a friend had called me. I was very interested in creative play, creative drama, and I was teaching some courses in it, and she called me and said, if you are really interested in children's theater and creative play, you better get yourself to Albany, where this Acetej convention was going on. Companies from all over the world were performing children's theater. We met different people, talked to different people, and it was very impressive. I had never realized how important children's theater was to other countries.
Oh, that's incredible.
It was really. It was used in different ways. In England, it was a lot of theater and education, what they call the Thai programs. In Russia, I remember they wanted just fairy tales, nothing political. It was very light and idealistic. And it was fascinating, but it was important in all these countries, and the artist was respected.
It was staggering because up at that point, I had not seen that quality of theater for children. And it was just overwhelming.
Yeah.
So, you know, I just wanted children in Buffalo to see that.
Right.
You know, I kept thinking, oh God, if I'd only seen this when I was a kid. And we were in the back of the bus with a little light, and that's when we started writing it up.
And all of a sudden, one of us said, Theater of Youth, and you got so excited. And she said, a toy. So I thought she was speaking some foreign language to me, that you suddenly knew Japanese or something. And of course, it was the acronym for Theater of Youth. And it was nice because we weren't trying to be cute or anything. It just, the name came, and then the acronym just happened to be Toy Company. 88% of equity actors are unemployed at any given time. And here we were training these people to go out and be unemployed. And it bothered me. And I thought, we wanted to do children's theater. I also wanted to do something for my students that maybe they could at least have a halfway house, something they would get an experience in and then go out in the world. Some of them never left. Some of them came back.
Thank God.
Ross said, Tony and I just got back from this conference. We're starting a children's theater company. We want you to be in it. And I said, okay.
They were very compliant students in those days, not like today.
It's like, okay. That was it. There were 5 of us,
Mhm.
Joel,
Right.
Mary Claire, and Ken and Anna, and I think it was the 5 students, and that became the core
founding
company.
core of the company.
What I need to keep the doors open in a real practical way, in order to keep producing what we do, we need the help of adults. And sometimes I wish I could just, grab politicians and all these people and say, well, funding the arts, it's not the business of government and it's charity. No, it isn't. No, it isn't. Are you listening to yourself? Do you need citizens who better understand a complex world, diversity of cultures, people who can talk to each other, who can be open-minded about those things? Then for God's sake, bring some artists into your planning, into your discussion. We will help you understand that because that's how we think.
I think it looks good. No idea the overwhelming response that we would get from it. I mean, to see the sea of people here so excited to have a great theater experience, that really put their best foot forward to make it something special, to make it an event, to make it unique. And I, know the show's going to be stellar, and they're going to have the night of their life.
Why am I not surprised?
Tonight is very special. It's opening night at the theater, but it's also the 30th anniversary of Curtain Up, which means that all of the theaters open at the same time and we celebrate the opening of the theater season. So it's a good night. And we thought it was really important this year to do a show for families to come to so that you're part of that festivity, a part of the city and the cultural life here. So it's 30th anniversary for Curtain Up, but most important of all, it is the beginning of the 40th year of the Theater of Youth Company. So as you're watching the play and maybe you wonder how they do that, or was that real, or anything at all, we'll talk about that for a few minutes when the play's over. Now I'm officially done, and we're ready to begin, and I do hope you enjoy Pinkalicious. Thank you.
So much to ask for. Everyone else is getting what they want. I love the way they taste. Just what's next?
Artichoke dipped in guacamole?
A lot of them like Peter, a lot of them like Pinkalicious. It just seems like it's going really, really well. I'm very happy.
I can't tell you how incredible. I just have 40 years rushing by. It's a very emotional night. It really is. Yeah, it's terrific. Yeah, I'll tell you, 40 years ago, it was a dream. I never thought 40 years later we would still be here.
I love you.
Congratulations. I can't imagine being married to anybody else. I can't imagine being married to anybody who would get that you have to be there night and day. Nobody would understand it, that so many other things can't get done. There isn't time to go to this or do that or whatever because there's a show, there's a rehearsal, there's tech, there's a strike. You have to be there.
It's good to know math,
It's good to know physics. It's good to know chemistry to a certain degree. So all these things that, kids sort of cringe at in high school is like, no, you guys should understand that if you're looking at going into technical theater, all those things are going to be useful.
All right, hold on a second. It's a tough business. You work a lot of hours in the creation of a project or the execution of a project. If I sit and I think about it, okay, boy, where did my life go, okay? But I don't really think about it that much. And the fact that I'm able to work with a lot of younger people, even Ken and Robert, Theater of Youth has an energy that it's like a locomotive. You just keep on trucking. And like I said, when our season starts, we just start moving. You don't have time really to sit and think, God, I'm too old to do this. No, you got to do it.
When it comes to sound design and his artistic role in the company, I can't really get in his way too much because I don't know what I'm talking about.
Music and sound is like a narrator, and it's telling you all these things, and it's filling in a lot of voids, a lot of things that you can't see. The audience can't be sitting there thinking about what was that sound that I heard. They have to know immediately. They have to know that when they're hearing birds and they're hearing a soft wind, that they're out, that this scene is taking place outside. Right up front, this is a Christmas holiday show. That thing just kept coming back to me with the strings.
Yeah, sometimes it gets to be a bit much. I'm the production manager, the technical director, carpentry, building the set. I'm composing the music for it and the sound design. What's happening now is there are things that I should be attending to that I just can't get to. There's just like no way I can handle certain things. Once our season starts, priorities are always getting the shows up, getting the shows running. A lot of the staff at Toy right now is just focusing on too many things. And I don't think you can really do justice to anything when you're going 90 miles an hour trying to just get the job done. Yeah, it is a lot easier when you've got more staff. With the budget cuts and all the things that are going on, it's just not there. With the passion that you have for the work that you do and the passion for the company that you work for, I guess I sort of, this is my take, is that I sort of look at, I'll do whatever it takes. I don't care. I'll be here till 8 o'clock at night building scenery, and then go home, and then work in my studio, and then get up tomorrow morning, And I just accept that, because that's the way it is right now. Can things change? Yeah, they can change. And there's no reason why they shouldn't.
I remember going to see a play about Amelia Earhart, and I'm still thinking about it, and I'm still thinking about If You Give a Pig a Party, and I'm still thinking about A Wrinkle in Time, and they have a way of keeping the story inside of your head.
I was born on the west side of Buffalo, above my grandmother's saloon. My parents were not particularly theater people. I mean, in the sense of they didn't go to the theater regularly. They might have gone to the town casino to hear, Frank Sinatra sing, but they certainly weren't going to see plays. And when I was young, they took a bunch of us, my brothers and my sister and I and a bunch of other kids, to the Studio Theater, which was on Lafayette and Hoyt at the time. And we saw a production of Alice in Wonderland. I had never seen live theater before in my life, and I was quite stunned and thrilled. And I went home that night and I started writing dialogue. Now, I didn't know what dialogue was, but I started writing it, and I have been writing it ever since. The idea that something like a live play could stimulate in me and excite me to the point where it has literally changed my life, because I've been writing dialogue ever since I saw that play, and people are paying me to do it. I owe that to the arts that touched me when I was young. And you look at the time we live in now, the confusion that we live in now. How are we supposed to understand the times we live in? We certainly can't get it from politicians. They're not going to tell us the truth about where we are. You can barely get it from the media. What you need is the arts to say, this is who we are and this is who we have the potential of becoming. And how that becomes like a pain in the ass to some politician or some school board person, I don't know. I find it extraordinary, the short-sightedness of the people who are the gatekeepers for our children, that they would shut these things down as a needless expense.
Theater can be and can do many things in the life of a child. It can instruct them, it can clarify things for them, but another thing that it does is it celebrates being a child and the way in which they just naturally perceive and understand things. It doesn't always have to be about showing them new things and trying to move them down the road of development and growing up. It can also pause for a moment and just say, isn't this fun?
Don't come any earlier than that because there might be buses already on the block. Oh, God. Good morning. Welcome to Toy. Single file line. We'll show you right into your seat. Come along. We need to keep it moving along. And Andrea has them by now calling places.
And other people are born to be shellfish. I do not even care for shellfish.
But sometimes our plays take a child by the hand and lead them through some kind of understanding. And sometimes a play is just tickles. I love the moments when they're sitting there and their feet don't touch the floor and they just giggle and there's a belly laugh that happens because they are just, so tickled by something that happens up here.
How do teachers know this stuff?
How much do we need to give in order for the child to do the rest of the thinking? If we do all of the thinking, the movies can do that. They can give you the entire thing that somebody else has imagined and thought out, and you can enjoy that. But when we come here, we try to give them just enough to trigger their thinking to go further.
Okay, so what might you be wondering about? Is that a real piece of coal?
That is not real coal, it's actually just a painted rock. So it's very heavy.
Why do we do it that way?
Well, coal is kind of messy, and if I was touching it, it could get on my hands and then get on my costumes.
I remember children straining to raise their hand to ask a question. A lovely moment that always resonates in my memory is a little boy who was toward the back and just straining, wanting to ask the question. Meg didn't get to him. Before she walked out, she leaned down and she said, "Did you have a question?" It just doesn't get better than that.
Thank you. Bye-bye now. Give me real quick, I can tell you where your bus is.
Hey, are you a pop star?
A pop star? No, I'm just the box office manager. Pardon me.
Today was like in the top 10. Everything ran swimmingly, smoothly.
Thank you. Bye-bye. Thank you.
At this lunchtime rally, theater and arts groups gathered urging Collins to keep the funding intact. Collins does support providing taxpayer subsidies to the Big Ten culturals, the zoo and the BPO, among others.
The regionally significant 10 will help our vision of making Erie County a world-class community a reality, bringing tourists in from outside.
But Kramer says the little guys matter too.
People spend money from this community at those organizations. If we eliminate those organizations, we have a very sophisticated audience in Buffalo. People are going to go elsewhere, and that money is going to go out of here, and sales tax revenues will go down.
The funding was removed from next year's budget by Erie County Executive Chris Collins and then reinstated by the legislature late last month, creating what Collins says will be a 3% property tax increase for residents. So he plans to swing his veto pen on Monday.
Vetoes are coming. They just can't be always having their hand out. And I'm confident this time next year, most, if not all, of these small organizations that say the sky is falling are still going to be here.
Eliminating every theater, eliminating every minority-based cultural, eliminating every music organization except for one. The depth and breadth of the cuts. Eliminating every organization that provided primarily free programming in the third poorest city in America. And his 10 were supposedly just based on tourism potential. We didn't say, no, that's wrong. The first thing we said was, show us the data. Why are these the 10? How did you prove that these are the 10 that foster tourism dollars? Well, he never responded to that. You know, it really wasn't about tourism. It was just about the organizations he wanted to fund.
Things had gotten out of control. We couldn't pay our bills. Our debt was out of control. Runaway Medicaid costs, pension costs, health insurance costs, and our commitment to not raise taxes. So we were in a very tough spot. And New York has lost 40% of our population relative to the rest of the country. Our taxes are the highest, and we've robbed our kids of a future here. So I think it's time to take the steps that I took.
So he was attacking my city. He was attacking the poor. I came up on the east side of Buffalo. I came up with my dad working 80 hours a week and my mom working 40, so that I could go to school, so that we could have a decent life. He was pretty much against everything I stood for. So I stood up too. And several other people from our community did as well.
Arts matter, 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 arts matter.
Out with Collins! Up with Collins! Out with him!
I think there's no other mid-sized city that has as much art activity as Buffalo has in the United States of America. We've got the second largest free outdoor Shakespeare, and Albright Knox is internationally famous, and with 26 theatre companies in this economically challenged city, something very, very positive is happening. And we need to encourage that kind of growth instead of work against it.
Like, doesn't make any sense in Buffalo. Like, it's one of the best things we got going for us there. Like, why the hell are you cutting anything that way?
I wouldn't live in Buffalo if it wasn't for the arts community here. I would not be here if it wasn't for that. I would have left a long time ago.
If that had happened when I was a kid, I wouldn't have the life I have. You wouldn't be talking to me right now.
When the leaders of your community show disbelief or lack of faith in culture, something seriously wrong with the infrastructure of the community.
Just to be somebody, I found out that I already was. Cause can't nobody be free unless we're all free. There's no me and no you, it's just us. Street preacher, what a fan once called me. I've been called worse and tried to live up. Hope you don't mind a few more stories. I swear to God, y'all, I tell them with love.
You know, young people can't vote.
Young people are the poorest citizens of the United States. They're the most abused. And so I think to be an artist serving young people is to be an advocate for them, for their intelligence, their power, their optimism in the face of all that. All of us in the field of theater for young people want to see every other theater succeed because we have something to learn from the work they're doing, in the classrooms and in the theaters. One of the great things about our field is we don't compete with each other, we just support each other because her success is our success, and every way we work together makes everything better. We are the beneficiaries of a community that has made support for the arts a critical part of its DNA. It's a self-fulfilling prophecy. The more that you have those kind of arts organizations or creative organizations provide opportunities for creatives, the more dynamic that community is going to be. And I think Minneapolis has proven that. We're not the biggest city. We're like the 16th or 17th largest media market in the country. That's not New York or Chicago. And when we built our building and we were raising the $27 million to do our expansion, the Guthrie was raising $150 million, the Walker was raising money, and Minneapolis Institute of the Arts was raising money. There were about $700 million of capital projects happening at the same time. And they all succeeded during a nasty economy. It wasn't easy, but it all happened. And that was just a testament to a kind of fundamental understanding of how this will build community. In the short run, it creates more jobs. In the long run, it creates more jobs. And in the long run, it's a magnet to that community and helps let the community raise a different kind of flag. I can't think of anything more important. In the history of the United States is also when you look at urban regeneration, the arts have been that leader. And the communities that vision that, support that, fight for that, are the communities that succeed.
Buffalo is a post-industrial Rust Belt city that's suffered the fate of a lot of cities like that. Loss of manufacturing, loss of jobs, loss of population. When you talk to people about Buffalo who aren't from Buffalo, their perception of the city is snow, chicken wings, Super Bowl losses, and where McKinley was shot. Those are all negative things. Is that what we want to be known for? Now is not the time to be cutting funding for this. It's the time to be, maybe it's too progressive thinking, but to be adding to the funding. I don't know where the money would come from. I don't know where, there's never any money, but there always seems to be money. But it's just an attitude, like just to rip these things away from people. You're sending a message that you don't matter.
The plays are always good. Like going in, you might have read a book and then you're about to see the play and you might have not liked the book. But the actors at Troy make anything seem like it's the best thing at that time, and it never disappoints.
Spark of curiosity and interest. That's what drives everything. And again, in this thinking big picture, in this day and age, we talk to young people about innovation. We must be innovators. The jobs that they're going to have someday haven't even thought of yet. It's a fast-paced, crazy, changing world. So I thought that this was just a play that presents an opportunity for such interesting reflection, about where do things come from? What does it mean to inquire? To take the chance, to not just accept things because people put it in front of you and said, there it is. And asking new questions and combining and synthesizing information. I look at Beth because this is the connection into creativity. So this play, in my mind, is specifically because it excites creative thinking skills. In the theater, we bring stories to life, but creative thinking is about how we see things anew, how we make connections.
If lightning is a natural phenomenon, then there might be a way to harness its power and redirect it.
It is a shocking notion, Father. Why not be sensible and
pursue a more acceptable occupation like before.
I intend to pursue what gives me pleasure. Science. At the ready? Proceed.
It's not just about theater, the theater experience. It's about, as human beings, who we are as creative people. And when I say creative, I'm not talking about artistic talent. Architects, scientists, biologists, astronomer. I mean, whatever it is that you have a passion and interest for, to be a creative thinker within that is important for your own expressive life, but also for the world.
U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics suggests that when you look at school-age children today, by the time they join the workforce and begin their work and move through to age 42, they'll change jobs 11 times. That's the kind of world that we're sending our kids into. As a consequence, many professionals and policymakers and thought leaders in the area of education see creative thinking as an essential professional skill and are challenging schools and our education system broadly to be thinking about what can be done to promote creative thinking. What Meg does so effectively at the Theater of Youth at the end of the performance, where kids are encouraged to ask questions, to express what they're wondering about, what they're curious about, is a way of really helping children to practice this skill of creative thinking. And if the trend continues, and I suspect that it will, places like the Theater of Youth are crucial.
People can say, why are my tax dollars going to support, this arts organization? Well, why are my taxpayer dollars going to pay for a football stadium that I have never set foot in? But I believe that we should have the Buffalo Bills. I believe that, roads should be taken care of that I'll never drive on. It's about what makes sense for our community.
I call them today spiteful cuts, and they were arbitrary, and I think they were intended to inflict harm on the organizations that got cut.
If you did a 10% cut across the board, everybody loses 10%. That's a possible solution, as opposed to saying these people will get 100% and these people will get 0.
The cutting of those funds was imbecilic because you judge the civilization of a society based on its culture. And centuries ago, the Medici could afford to hire people to decorate their private altars. But in a democracy, arts should be available to all. And I think it's fully appropriate for governmental entities to support these arts because they give substance to people's lives and existence. And what the county is doing is counter to that. The county has got the resources to support these culturals. The city of Buffalo is a lot poorer, but we're a lot richer in our perception and the importance of the arts.
We came out of that mindset where you have this body who makes recommendations, they review your organization.
It was just a feel-good sham. The process that was in place was broken. It was referred to as ECRAB, the Erie County Cultural Resource Advisory Board. These great volunteers, and I speak very highly of them, would come together in this process, at which point the county executive would put together a budget and submit it to the legislature. The legislature then would completely ignore all the hard work of ECRAB, and they would consider these dollars the pork that they as legislators could designate. The choice I had to make was cutting 10 or 15% from each of those to fund 25 or 30 smaller organizations or not. And I chose the direction I went because also when we looked at the budgets for most of these smaller organizations, the county was giving them 10 or 15,000 a year, in some cases 5, maybe up to 20. I think the range would be 5 to 20,000. When we looked at the percentage of their budget that covered, in many cases it was only 10 or 15% of the budget. So people who would say they could suffer a 10 or 15% cut, that's pretty much what we dealt those smaller organizations.
I don't know where his heart was. I'm not sure in what place his heart was. Shakespeare in the Park was founded on the sort of apprentice master program. Starting with the very first year in 1976, I hired professional actors who acted opposite students on stage. The pros were the masters, the students were the apprentices. And that is still the case. No not-for-profit theater can run on what happens at the box office. It's never enough, which means that you need support. And there are lots of people in town, whether they can afford it or not, who write an annual check and support theaters around town. And we also anticipate that local government will support theater as well. It's part of what makes life livable here. So to suddenly have the payroll swept away like that, with no warning, absolutely no warning. We were in the process of getting ready for the season, for the summer season. And for a moment, it really looked like that was the end of us, after 35 years. Should we be so dependent on public money? Well, some would say not. It is recognized around the world that government has a role in supporting and maintaining the arts. And so when the local county government suddenly, precipitously took it all away, it was a blow.
I've been artistic director for, I think it's going on 18 or 19 years now. But my husband works here. I know how much work other people put into it. It just does whatever has to be done. I mean, Ken Shaw, Barb Priori, Robert Brunschmidt. It goes beyond just collaboration. There's an intuitiveness and an awareness of each other.
And I always sort of say, as long as I've got a ruler and a pencil and a flat surface, I can amend a drawing or change something when you hand draft. So
at Toy, we have such a skeleton crew of people. I mean, I think there's 6 full-time staff people and that's it. I think that we're all just so, we're committed to what we're doing and we love what we're doing. And so we're kind of always ready to just be that manpower that is necessary to make stuff happen with really, really, really tight budgets. We sort of invent in different ways and we problem solve in different ways, and it's frustrating and it's difficult and it's all that stuff. And until people start throwing money at theater the way that they do so many other things in this country, we'll always be working under tight budgets. One of the jokes I always say is I would love to see the Air Force have to have a bake sale to buy their next stealth bomber, because they'll never have to go through what we go through to put on and do what we do. I personally hate the idea that people somehow think that we're just doing it out of the love of doing it. It's a job like any other job. I have bills to pay. I have taxes to pay. I have all of the same things that everyone else who lives in this country has to pay. But I do what I do because I care about the work and I care about the artistry behind it. And I want to know that even though money might be tight and we don't have a lot of money to spend on a production, that the experience that a child gets when they come to our theater is just as valuable as if they're seeing a Disney production on Broadway that has millions of dollars thrown at it, or a movie or anything else that they use for, their sense of entertainment. It's important that that quality is there. So you do what you have to do, and you put in the extra hours and you put in the extra time and you figure out how to, with a piece of cardboard and string and a little bit of glue, come up with something that looks like a highly polished professional, piece of theater. I really wish I was one of those designers who could do these beautiful kind of sweeping lines and impressionist kind of costume drawings so that, there's interpretation around them and what they may turn into can evolve a little bit as the process of the play goes on. But what's nice is that I work with a woman named Barbara Priori, and she's the head of our wardrobe department. And over the years, because we've worked together continuously, she's so able now to look at one of those very, very, very tight drawings and kind of know exactly what I'm asking for.
I feel like I've been his apprentice for the last 13 years and has taught me everything as far as costuming in the theater. It was always fun to see your pieces once you'd finished them on stage at a performance.
Integrity would be called into question.
Personally, I just love knowing that at 10 o'clock in the morning, there's 500 people, little people, walking into our auditorium, and they're just going to be told a really good story. Maybe just some of the problems that they have each day, maybe problems at home, problems at school, problems with bullies. They can put all of that away and just sort of sit in a safe place and really enjoy the experience of being told a good story. Is there value to having a children's theater in Buffalo, New York? Well, of course it's valuable to have a children's theater in Buffalo, New York. The children of Buffalo shouldn't get anything less than the children in New York City or the children in Seattle or the children in Los Angeles or any of the big major cities.
Thank you for what you're going to do and taking the risks to create one job at a time. We want those jobs here. There's a saying, you either grow or you die, so it's your jobs that will help us grow. And I would just leave you with this one thought for those of you who are trying to raise money. Remember the golden rule. He who has the gold makes the rule. Thank you.
Culturals in and of themselves employ over 4,700 jobs in this community. They directly put close to $93 million in economic impact into our economy, with the audiences adding another $62 million, and they generate over $24 million in state and local sales tax, all annually. So to consider them pork, as has been noted, is a big overstatement.
Well, my philosophy is, first you try to work with someone, then you try to work around someone. When all else fails, though, then you work against someone. And that was a personal decision. As the head of an organization, a not-for-profit organization, the organization can't get involved in a political race. Individuals, however, can.
And you would just see the body language, just see a tightness happening. That he knew the camera was on him, he couldn't say what he really wanted to say, but he was saying stuff with such disdain for these people who want money. And these arts groups just think they can stand around with their hands out, and they're going to get something. Well, they're not going to get it, And I thought, wow, what is wrong with you, buddy? I'm not selling crack out the front door here. A sector that is such a tremendous resource for the problem solving of this community. People are leaving? Well, let's make it such a hell of a place to live, you wouldn't want to go. Make it such a place that when you're trying to entice a business to come here, they're not going to be able to resist, because the creative thinking workers that they are looking for and want to bring with them are going to love this place. Why don't you see that? Or she's trying to suffocate it. That this is the arts and cultural life of this community, and that's just wrong to do that.
Go back to Hecuba. Hecuba is the queen of Troy. The Greeks lay siege to Troy. They capture her. She's a queen. They enslave her. They kill her husband. They take her children. Hecuba is a woman with nothing left to lose. Well, his foolish miscalculation was they were willing to play nice with him as long as they had something to lose. He took it all away. He turned Meg Quinn into Hecuba. Don't do that.
No, I'm putting my foot down now and saying, no, you're not going to get away with that anymore. If it's informing people or fighting people, we'll do whatever it takes.
Executive who understands strong libraries and the arts not only enrich the mind,
but they're an investment in our economic future.
Imagine a county executive who measures the strength of our economy not by the size of his bank account,
but by whether you can make ends meet.
I'm Mark Polenkars. As comptroller, I've protected your hard-earned tax dollars. As your county executive, I'll work tirelessly to ensure the services you need are provided as efficiently as possible. And I'll always remember who my bosses are, you, the people of Erie County. Imagine what we can do together.
But right from the get-go, he realized there was value in that. But he also goes. He wasn't just making it up.
I don't think the county executive puts any value on cultural organizations, on libraries, on quality of life issues. He says he does. He talks about cultural tourism and the like. But when push comes to shove, he doesn't fund them. He doesn't care. The county executive does not value democratic government, it appears, because he doesn't care about checks and balances in government.
We don't like that big guy kind of pushing hardworking people who are just trying to do a good thing, getting pushed around. That goes against the grain of Buffalo people. We wanted to say, we're also going to put money where our mouth is. And the three of us organized a fundraiser. We raised a little bit of money, but it was one way of demonstrating to the powers that be politically that we weren't just going to march around or say things. We were going to put some money to it. I intuitively, again, had a sensibility about what this was and what it could be, and felt right from the very beginning that there was significance and value to it. There was an opportunity through live theater to do something much more valuable that could really impact the life of a child.
We have a graduation rate fluctuates right around 60%. Not even 2/3 of our students graduate in 4 years. All I know is that the job we're supposed to be doing, we're not getting done. We need a strong foundation in literacy. We need students reading at grade level by 3rd grade. We need to get everybody to that level, figure out what track it's going to take to get that child reading. Students who know their numbers and can do essential math, and then start building on the wisdom of what they need to do. But then we need to look at that 3rd grader and say, we need to start embracing the whole child. So much of what we need to do for our children already exists out there in Buffalo. Places like the Theater of Youth, I think, remain the glimmer of hope within this community, where you think to yourself, how can this word transform into that action? How can this story become so real? How are those adults on stage making me believe they're the characters in a book? That's sparking these, the creative side of every brain that we have in our schools. It's the ability to dream, to think, to believe. I don't ever want poverty to limit someone from taking advantage of the richness of culture in this community. And when we equate poverty with low literacy skills, that's what we're doing. So we can't do that anymore.
I'll just imagine a world where everything is the same, from rules of speech down to daily life. Interesting. Questions for the author. What did you want to be when you grew up? She knew right away she wanted to be a writer. So, when did you? Chapter 1, boys. Meg and the boys. The next night, Meg, Charles Wallace, Mrs. Murray. Okay, great job.
And I'm delighted he's found his way here. Mother, you were going to tell me about a tesseract. Yes, a troubled look came into Mrs. Murray's eyes.
The question is, will it work? Will it actually help me travel in time?
We're trying to get our little bug to get from one side to another without going all around like traveling. So we made a 3-dimensional square.
Okay, what about characters? Think about characters. What do you like, Meg and
I want to see how they go put the little brain.
You had a dream. Yeah, sometimes when you read those characters, they just take a part of your life. And the major theme we were talking about is family and love and persevering and thinking about overcoming obstacles. And we all have to overcome obstacles. I want to see for myself, how are they going to put that on stage? How would that be captured for me? Conduct ourselves as young ladies and young men. And lastly, just enjoy yourself. Think about what we've read. Think about the vocabulary, which was like extremely difficult at times, but we persevered and we learned. Okay, because we're going to leave everything just as it is.
when people feel sorry for us. What you're about to experience might frighten you, but I can assure you.
There is no time for that, Watson. And then the moon went out like a light. And the wind stopped blowing, and the leaves stopped rustling, and the clock stopped ticking.
Taking us up
and up they went, higher and higher.
Well, A Wrinkle in Time required some wild imagination on all parts, on all levels, across the board. The actors, myself, all of the designers, and everything had to sync up, and almost like a timepiece that had to lock in, and everything had to work together. So I love that kind of challenge. I love the excitement, the tolerance for ambiguity.
I think what's most important about this show is actually showing live emotion, because I feel like that's one thing that particular audiences are really uncomfortable with, is seeing the emotion of family, of loss, of inner struggle, and to have that in their face and to hear them go, oh, she's really close to me. She's really, really way too close to me.
But to see excitement and interest on a child's face is rewarding in a way that compares to nothing else, because they're fresh, because they're innocent, because they have this clean slate ahead of them and they can go anywhere.
Hugging, laughing, crying, and Meg felt a new flow of joy and love.
Right now, we're going to talk with some members of the cast. Actors?
I really enjoyed them. So when I got to do this play, I reread the first one, A Wrinkle in Time, and I just got so excited to do the play.
Was it fun to put the play together?
Yeah, I really enjoyed doing this, especially because we've added things that we don't usually use, like all the video and all the projections and stuff. It was fun figuring out what that should look like. Well, you guys were a great audience, and I hope you continue reading the book and read the other books. They're great stories. Thank you.
It's like a training.
Our group from our school
that
had all the questions.
That's the other people.
Nobody on the side of us? Not very many. Why? What was your expectation?
Because they probably read the book and they probably just got familiar with the play and they didn't get the chance to keep studying just like we did.
It's unfortunately in fourth grade we have 3 state tests, so we have to work with that. But sometimes funding is a problem too. You know, because we want to do some things and it's $5 or $10 per child, and that's just a lot to ask parents, especially when they have 3 or 4 children. So seeing things or doing things, I always said field trips are the best social studies lessons, you know. We have to do a lot of nonfiction work. That's part of life, and if we could do more of that, we'd have better interest too. I think the students would do better.
It helps facilitate the learning, developing the person, developing the mind, the intellect. There are many administrators and classroom teachers who know that, but things are being imposed upon them that they can't get away from, can't resist it because, you know, this is the way it's done now.
We've lost a lot of things. A lot of people have left, but a lot of artists have come back, and a lot of artists have stayed. And these are people that are good community people, thinkers, creators. These are good people to have around. And it's this growing arts community that's fostering this. Wouldn't it be a great thing if we could make a new legacy for Buffalo? Not only keep the people here, but attract more people here? It's all right there, waiting to happen. Groundwork is all laid. What will it take?
I may not be able to self-fund my campaign, but tonight I feel like the richest man in Erie County.
We lost in the city. It's that simple. But you know, I'm proud of what we accomplished. Even detractors like the Buffalo News praised our financial stewardship in turning the county around.
We're going to do it not by spending more, but by spending wisely, by investing in our cultural assets, by investing in our libraries. We're going to do it by investing in people, because that's what we are as a community, that's what we are as a government.
Perception of me is I don't care about theater, I don't care about the arts, and nothing could be further from the truth. I'm an advocate in every way, and with my own children growing up, we routinely came down to the Theater of Youth. That's a mission that should be supported and applauded, and it is by the community, by foundations, and by individuals like my wife and I who stepped up in 2008 and put in the new sound system that was falling apart. And it's those kind of benefactors and philanthropic-minded individuals permeate Western New York. My wife and I certainly felt good in that regard, that we were giving back to an organization that have helped my own children, but I did not make decisions politically to get reelected. I stayed true to my principles and core value 100% of the time.
The community responded to that action by removing him from office, which is very encouraging, I think.
He fulfilled every single promise he made, and that was his undoing.
We have started to demand that people better understand what we have to offer. We're not part of the problem. We're a tremendous resource. A resource, not a charity.
I don't have children. I've never been the toy. I was disappointed in the former county executive's cuts because he basically cut every one of the small theater companies. He said, if you can exist on your own, go ahead and do it. And he tried to state that by them existing, it showed that he was right. I felt there is a value when you need to ensure that the county contributes to those organizations. As I said, there's so many different ones. We're blessed by having so many different ones, but it's also a curse. How do we continue to fund all these organizations when we have a community that truly is getting smaller? For now, we've said that the arts and culturals matter. This is truthfully going to be something that this community is going to have to look at it on a maybe not day by day, but a year by year basis. As we lose population, what do we have to sustain and what can we do going forward? My goal is that the portion of the amount of money they receive from the county just doesn't make them sustainable, but allows them to grow and be vibrant. I mean, the hope would be in the long run that each and every one of these organizations wouldn't need a penny from government to succeed. That's not the case today. That's the hope.
It wasn't all sunshine and lollipops for them. I know that they struggled many of those years to keep the company afloat.
The summer of 1975, and there was a year-long celebration of the American Bicentennial. And we were doing 2 original plays. They were street theater plays, and we toured them all around Western New York. And we would gather people together in parks and in schools, and we would do this open-ended play, and the characters needed the audience to help. And one of those plays was about clowns. And the audience was a group of children who were physically and mentally handicapped. And we did the show, and everything worked out fine. And as we were leaving, a little boy came running after us, and he was calling out with all his heart, "Goodbye, clowns, goodbye, goodbye." And he was so excited and so happy. And then one of the instructors came up to us and said, "I want you to know that is the first time that child has spoken all summer."
Meg is a thoroughgoing professional. She could do what she does in Buffalo, she could do anywhere. If the Theater of Youth was in Times Square, it would function just as well, and she would function just as well, because she just has the stuff.
And I think at that moment is when I began to really think about how important Theater of Youth Company could be. That through the power of theater, we could reach children in a way that nothing else could. And I also began to think that maybe the sacrifice and the determination that it was going to take to establish a theater dedicated to children, maybe it was worth it. And I want to say to every actor in this room tonight, every designer, every director, every stage manager, singer, dancer, choreographer, technician, if you have ever been part of creating a play at Theater of Youth Company,
You made a difference in the life of a child.
Joe and I are incredibly proud of our parents, incredibly proud of the work that they do and how hard they work. They're unbelievable. I tell people all the time, if I could be like anybody, I'd want to be just like my parents. They're unbelievable people.
To my Chester, Chester's incredible music and sound design complete every play. Together we've raised 2 great kids and created a lot of theater for children. And after 31 years of marriage, he is still my best and truest friend and the love of my life. Thank you.
Own my own home, raise 2 kids, send them through college. We make a living. Are things tight for us? Yeah, I mean, you know, people our age are now probably looking at retirement. I don't think I'll ever retire. But it's not about us, it's about what's affecting them. If we can change a life somewhere along the way, all right, which we have in the past, and I'm sure we do every day. Every day when there's those 400 and some kids that come to see every show, I'm sure that those kids are affected by what they see. And that's just gonna make it better for them. And that's my passion for doing what I do. And that's not gonna change.
God bless Meg for keeping it going. And God bless the people that are still there doing it regardless. It doesn't pay a whole lot of money and there's a lot of heartbreak involved. But it's because of people like that that, you know, I got to have the life that I have. And, you know, if I had kids, you know, I'd want them to have the same experience and I'd fight tooth and nail so that they could have the same experience. And maybe that's part of what needs to happen.
I would hate to think of Buffalo without the toy company being there. It clearly has become, in these 40 years, iconic and a real kind of anchor, certainly for that neighborhood. So I think the impact alone it would have on Allentown would be horrifying if it was gone.
And now I look at the Allendale Theater and everything that exists here. It took a long time to get here, but in my mind, I guess it was inevitable because the idea had meaning and we needed to do it. And the right people at the right time helped to move the rock up the hill. And we're still moving it up the hill. And we've come a long way. Hundreds of thousands of children who have come here or wherever else we've performed over 40 years and had moments of understanding, clarity.
When I see Meg leading the company, I just don't think there could be a better person. And it's like a dream come true.
An actor or somebody will write on Facebook or whatever about their experience here, and you just see that it's gotten inside, they get it. They've made a connection to the child audience, and it has rewarded them in ways they never saw coming. You know, and it's really, it's a joy.
It feeds back to the child in us.
Mm-hmm.
We grow from the experience. We give and we get.
Yeah. Guess that's all.
Long live toy.
Home is where the heart will be forever. If you travel near or travel far, home is where you'll always find the answer to any little problem going round. Home is where the heart will be forever. Just think of all the friends you left behind. Some will go and some will stay forever. But home is where you'll find some peace of mind. You can't move away from home, 'cause home is where the heart will be. You can live in faraway places or move to Tennessee. You can't move away from home, 'cause home is where the heart will be. And when you're lost and all alone, Home is where you'll always wanna be. Some stay a week or two, or maybe till the end of May. Some sail across the ocean and write letters home each day. Some phone late at night to see if everything's alright. When you're alone and far from home, home is where you'll find some peace of mind. Home is where the heart will be forever, if you travel near or travel far. Home is where you'll always find the answer to any little problem going round. Home is where the heart will be forever. Just think of all the friends you left behind. Some will go and some will stay forever, but home sweet home is always on your mind. Some will go and some will stay forever, but home sweet home, they'll love you all the time.